Baseball in the Boroughs is brought to you by Verizon. With my plan, get exactly what you want and only pay for what you need. Max Scherzer, Peter Alonsos, and the Mets are buzzing on social media and the New York Post website after the Mets 5-1 win over the Nationals on Friday night. With New York Post baseball writer Dan Martin is here with the 411 in this edition of Baseball in the Boroughs. Dan, I woke up, read your article about Max wanting to sit down with the front office after the David Robertson trade. Can you break down this whole Max Scherzer beef?
Well, Brandon, we've asked Max Scherzer about the trade deadline and his future with the Mets for a while now because the Mets were having such a bad season. Guys like him and Justin Verlander and plenty of other guys, their future's in doubt. And he just would refuse to talk about it. Said, not until Steve Cohen decides what he wants to do am I going to talk about what the trade deadline is going to look like. And so he pitched last night, pitched pretty well. And it was the first time he talked after the game since David Robertson got traded. And he made it pretty clear that he was not happy that they traded their closer to Miami the night before, and he wants answers from Steve Cohen and GM Billy Eppler about the direction of the franchise for both this season and next season. Because he's a veteran pitcher, he wants to win, and he wants to make sure that can be done in New York with the Mets. And if not, then he'd want to go elsewhere. But that is easier said than done, given how he's pitched this year and the contract that he has.
Do you think the way that he's going about it is the right way?
For us, it is. It was pretty entertaining after the game to have him talk like that. Look, he's pretty honest, and he said he was frustrated and disappointed in the Robertson trade. So, he's entitled to his opinion. He did own some of the fact that his poor performance this year is one of the reasons why the Mets traded David Robertson and are in position to trade other guys, because if he had pitched better, they'd be higher up in the standings. They might be buying at the deadline. So while other guys in the clubhouse, are talking positively, like Pete Alonsos and Francisco Lindor, about the goals that they still have for the rest of the season and making a run at the playoffs, as unlikely as it might seem, Scherzer was pretty honest and said, I don't know what we're doing. We just traded our closer, and I don't know what direction that leaves us for now and for 2024 as well. Are they going to bail on that year as well? It seems hard to believe with Steve Cohen as your owner and the roster the way it's currently built. But, Scherzer was pretty emotional last night, very disappointed in what's happened this year. So I think he just let a lot of that out after a game.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have our eyes on that, especially with the magnitude of player that he is. And you put the words positive and Pete Alonsos in the same sentence. So let's go on a good front. Polar Bear Pete's bat looks like it's bad. Can you say that this man's out of his slump, and how good is that for the Mets going forward?
He certainly seems like he's out of his slump. He talked about the fact that he wasn't that far off when he was going through that downturn, which is, frankly, a very long time, and obviously another reason why the Mets are where they are in the standings and in dire shape here as we go to the deadline. He's looked like himself the last week or so. Buck Showalter said he saw some signs when the Mets were in Boston that Pete was about to turn it around, and he's been tremendous since then for the last week to 10 days. Nothing better than Friday night, where he just hit two huge home runs. They won 2 games in a row, so they have no choice. Guys like Alonso and Francisco Lindor, who are going to be here probably for the long term, they've got to have a positive mindset and think that there's still talent in the clubhouse. If Alonso keeps up anything close to this pace, and they need guys like Lindor to turn it around, and Jeff McNeil, and who knows, maybe they do make some type of run. But we'll see what happens before the Tuesday trade deadline. We saw them pick, as we just talked about. Robertson's gone. Who's next? Is Tommy Pham still here? Is Mark Hanna still here? Is Brooks Raley still here? There's other guys that they could trade, including Justin Verlander. So, look, there's a lot of questions to answer before Tuesday, and we'll have a lot better idea of the Mets' future by then, and also whether Pete's positivity is going to pay off.
Well, I guess that kind of messes up my next question because, the Tuesday's deadline, like you said, there's so many factors behind that. But I still have to ask you, do the Mets make the postseason this season?
Yeah, I think it's a tough question. Right now, I'd say they have a very, very slight chance the way the roster is constructed. but we really have to wait and see the next few days. If they break down more of the roster, they traded David Robertson for 2 minor league prospects who won't be, if they are ever in Queens, won't be 4 or 5 years from now. So it's not about augmenting this roster. It's about building for the future. If they make more moves like that, I don't see how it's possible that they can make the playoffs. If they hold back and only trade Robertson, they're only 6 games out of the wild card race. They've got about 4 teams to pass. I would say it's very unlikely, best case scenario. And if they make more moves to diminish the roster for this year, then they'd have no chance. And obviously that's kind of what Scherzer wants to find out.
Make sure you guys check out Dan's articles on the Post's website, as well as his coverage for the upcoming trade deadline. Dan Martin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Brandon.